What if the richest country in South America became so poor that its people ate zoo animals to survive? Not 100 years ago, not 50. This decade, Venezuela has more proven oil reserves than any country on earth, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than Iraq, and its people are starving. 3 out of 4 Venezuelans lost an average of 11 kilograms in a single year, not from dieting, from hunger. This is the story of how a country with everything destroyed itself, and every step of the way the people cheered. 1998, Hugo Chavez wins the presidential election in a landslide. He is charismatic, electric. He speaks for hours on television without notes. He comes from poverty. He is mixed race in a country ruled by light-skinned elites. He promises to take the oil wealth that has been hoarded by the rich and give it to the poor. The poor believe him. Why wouldn't they? They have been ignored for decades. Venezuela is one of the richest countries in Latin America, but the wealth sits in penthouses in Caracas while the barrios have no running water. Chavez is their revenge, and revenge feels good. The oil money starts flowing. Chavez creates social programs called missions, free health care from Cuban doctors, subsidized food stores, literacy programs, housing projects. It works. Poverty drops from 50% to 30%. The poor worship him. He gives them things no previous government ever did: dignity, visibility, a president who looks like them and talks like them. The opposition calls him a dictator. He calls them oligarchs. Both are partly right. But Chavez needs more money, always more money. He nationalizes the oil industry, fires 18,000 workers from PDVSA, the state oil company, and replaces them with loyalists. Production starts to fall. He doesn't care. Oil is at $100 a barrel. Money pours in anyway. He nationalizes steel, cement, telecommunications, agriculture, banking. Each time the pattern is the same: seize the company, replace managers with political allies, watch productivity collapse, cover the losses with oil revenue. Repeat. He imposes price controls. The government decides what bread should cost, what rice should cost, what medicine should cost. Basic economics says if you set the price below the cost of production, producers will stop producing. And they do. Shelves begin to empty, but not yet everywhere. Not yet dramatically. The oil money papers over the cracks. Chavez imports what Venezuela can no longer make. With dollars from oil, he buys loyalty. He changes the constitution. He packs the courts. He shuts down opposition television stations. Each step is small enough to defend. Each step moves the country further from democracy. 2013, Chavez dies of cancer. He is mourned like a saint. Millions weep in the streets. His chosen successor is Nicolas Maduro, a former bus driver with none of Chavez's charisma and all of his worst instincts. Maduro inherits a broken machine and no ability to fix it. He inherits an economy that depends entirely on oil prices staying above $100, and then the floor drops out. 2014, oil prices crash from over $100 a barrel to under $30. The revenue that funded everything evaporates overnight, but the spending doesn't stop. The social programs continue. The government payroll continues. The military gets paid first, always first. Where does the money come from? The printing press. Venezuela's central bank starts printing bolivars at an accelerating rate. The currency begins to fall, then it begins to collapse, then it begins to disintegrate. 2016, inflation hits 800%. ATMs run out of cash. The largest banknote in the country cannot buy a cup of coffee. People carry bags of money to buy basic goods. The government refuses to print larger denominations because admitting the numbers would be admitting the failure, so people literally cannot carry enough cash to buy groceries. Digital payments become mandatory not by choice but by the sheer physical impossibility of paying with paper. 2017, the hunger begins in earnest. Not just poverty, real hunger. The calorie kind. Hospitals have no medicine, no surgical gloves, no antibiotics. Patients bring their own sheets. Doctors operate by the light of cell phones during blackouts. Children die from diseases that were eradicated decades ago. Measles returns, diphtheria returns, malaria returns, diseases of the 19th century in a country with more oil than Saudi Arabia. The zoo animals in Caracas begin disappearing. First the sheep and goats, then the horses and donkeys, then the wild birds. People are eating them. This is not propaganda. This is documented by the Venezuelan Observatory of Violence and international journalists. In the Orinoco Delta, indigenous communities that lived on fishing now compete with desperate city dwellers who have never held a fishing rod. The food chain itself is collapsing. The exodus begins. 7 million Venezuelans flee the country. 7 million, that is nearly a quarter of the population. They walk across the border into Colombia. They take buses to Peru. They fly to Chile. They become the largest refugee crisis in the Western Hemisphere. Doctors become street vendors. Engineers become delivery drivers. Professors beg at traffic lights in Bogota. An entire generation of educated professionals, the people who could rebuild the country, leave and never come back. 2018, inflation reaches 1 million%. That is not a typo. 1 million%. A cup of coffee that cost 1 bolivar in the morning costs 10 bolivars by afternoon. The government finally issues new banknotes, slashing 5 zeros, then 3 more zeros, then 5 more zeros. 13 zeros removed in total. The currency is renamed 3 times. Each rename is an admission of catastrophic failure dressed up as a fresh start. Maduro stays in power. How? The military. He pays the generals with drug money, with gold from illegal mines, with the last drops of oil revenue. The military runs food distribution. They decide who eats. This is not an exaggeration. The military controls the clap boxes, subsidized food packages that are the only affordable nutrition for millions. If you protest, your family loses the box. If you vote wrong, your neighborhood loses the box. Hunger is a weapon, and Maduro wields it with precision. The opposition tries everything. Protests in 2017 leave over 150 people dead. Juan Guaido declares himself interim president in 2019. 60 countries recognize him. The United States imposes sanctions. Nothing changes. Maduro has the guns, Maduro has the food, Maduro has the generals. Democracy is a word that means nothing when the man with the army decides the election results. Guaido eventually fades into irrelevance. The international international community moves on, Venezuela is left to rot. Here's what you need to understand. Venezuela is not a natural disaster. It is not a war zone. No earthquake destroyed its infrastructure. No invasion shattered its economy. Every single step was a choice. Nationalize the oil company. Choice. Fire the engineers. Choice. Print money instead of reforming. Choice. Pack the courts. Choice. Arm the military. Choice. Starve the opposition. Choice. Every step was applauded by someone. Every step had a justification. Every step made the next step easier and the way back harder. That is the slippery slope. Not a single dramatic fall, but 1,000 small steps, each one perfectly reasonable in isolation, each one catastrophic in accumulation. Now here's the question that should keep you awake. Venezuela in 1998 was a democracy. It had a free press. It had an independent judiciary. It had a professional military. It had the largest oil reserves on earth. It had a middle class. It had universities. It had everything a country needs to succeed, and it chose, step by step, vote by vote, to destroy itself. Not because Venezuelans are stupid, not because they are different from you, but because the promises sounded so good. Free healthcare, free education, free housing, take from the rich and give to the poor. It sounds like justice. It sounds like compassion. It sounds like exactly what a good person would vote for, and that is what makes it so dangerous. The road to collapse is paved with applause.